Hello and welcome to the Grumpy Sound Guy Show. I am your host, Mr. J.R. Everhart from COP Audio and Staging, the Grumpster himself. Today we are going to talk about lighting. We're going to talk about ROI, specifically middle market lighting. Don't hit me in this video if you're a pro touring guy or you're in a permanent install situation where you got big budgets or you're a theater guy or something like that. This video is not going to really pertain to your application, of lighting. I'm going to be talking to the weekend warriors, the guys that are doing nightclubs, the county fairs, and that sort of thing. And we're going to talk about a lot of budget-friendly ways of doing lighting and what really works for me and just my whole kind of take on the lighting thing in the middle market, and whether it's even worth your time to blow a bunch of money in getting lighting. Yeah, so a lot of really cool gut level information in today's video. You do not want to miss a second of this week's Grumpy Sound Guy Show. Hey guys, if I could just have a moment of your time to talk to you about this channel. 49.8% of you guys watching this right now is not subscribed to this channel. Will you please hit that subscription button? It doesn't cost anything to subscribe to the channel on the public side here. And then that gives us tools and resources and for my marketing team to be able to do what we need to do to get this content out to people who really enjoy this sort of thing. The other thing is, if you're super digging this and you'd like a deeper look into my world, then subscribe to the paid side of the YouTube channel. You can join for about the cost of a cup of coffee a month, and then I do vlogs over there. I post content that never goes public, and I let you into my world. I let you into the COP audio world, and I let you see what our day-to-day life looks like. Love you guys. Thank you for the support. Hello, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. So let me start this conversation just with my own personal feelings about some things, okay? And again, like I said in the intro, this is focused toward middle market guys that are on a budget, small production company guys like myself who are, only using one guy most of the time or only using, 3 or 4 guys on the bigger festivals and that sort of stuff, street festivals, that sort of thing. We are not dealing with budgets that allow for pro level lighting. Let me just put it that way. We're not running around with grand MAs, lighting consoles and things like that. Most guys in the middle market are using some sort of PC-based control software through an ArtNet or something like that to be able to control their lighting because it's quick, easy, and cheap. I personally use Chave Show Express. It's free software. I had to buy the Chave, dongle, which basically is taking you from USB to 3-pin DMX. And then, I can do 2 universes on that if I want. I've never needed more than one in my specific situation. But, the long and short of all this is I don't really get a lot of clients that are hounding me with money to back those requests for big lighting stuff. Most guys are happy to get really good audio and basic stage wash lighting because that's kind of what their budget dictates. It seems to be the norm in the middle market, especially in the club scene, and things like that. Now, I know some guys that are just, total nerds for lighting, and they're bringing out a whole bunch of stuff just because they enjoy working with lighting and they enjoy doing what they do, with making the show look like a Whitesnake concert or something like that. I've never really been that guy because it's all about dollars in the bank for me. I can do all those things if you want. In fact, it's a tongue-in-cheek thing with some of my hiring clients that if you want the white snake package, we got it. We can bring out a truss system, and we got all the movers and all the things, all the stuff that you like, multiple haze machines and stuff like that. We got all that stuff. But the long and short of it is I'm trying to work as smart as I can possibly work, not as hard as I can possibly work. So there's something to be said for that. You know what I'm saying? So I want to preempt this whole conversation that we're talking about with that, so that you guys know right out of the gate that I'm really just talking to budget-minded, weekend warrior kind of guys, even small full-time production guys. I'm full-time. I do 180, 200 shows a year, something like that. Probably 30% of that is bigger shows where I'm actually putting upstage lighting in place, whether it's hanging it on my stage or we're unpacking a truss, which honestly, it's probably been over a year since I've unpacked, probably a year and a half since I've unpacked a truss rig. Usually if we're doing a full-on light show, it's with the stage and everything kind of mounts in the roof of the stage. So that's, just kind of the way it goes. So yeah, so it's just not something that's beating my door down. Now, lighting guys will argue with me until the cows come home that that the show should look as good as it sounds. I don't disagree with that. I really honestly don't. The problem is finding people who have budgets to do that. If I come to your nightclub, let's say you have a 500 cap nightclub, decent sized room nightclub, I got to spend like, another hour and a half, to set up lighting. There's a dollar amount attached to that. Plus, it's a lot more gear to load in and out of the club. So there's a dollar amount attached to that. I offer those packages. I can do all those things. Rarely do I find guys that want to do that, unless it's like New Year's Eve or it's some kind of special event or it's a corporate event where there's a bigger budget, and that kind of stuff. Otherwise, I'm really just doing, my club system is really good audio with 2 downstage trees that have 4 wash lights on each one. That's just washing the stage with some color. And I'm not even controlling them. They're on like a real slow auto fade. So they're just, slowly changing colors, and it works. And no one really complains about it. I mean, there's bands who would like to have more, but they never have the budget for that. I had a guy, I don't know, probably 3 years ago that told me, he says, JR, you need to understand that when a band approaches you wanting to get a bid for a club gig, they are assuming that you're bringing a truss light rig as well. And I'm like, well, that's never an assumption in my world. That's always something that we talk about. You get basic stage wash lighting on auto fade, or you pay more money to get a truss rig and get a control package for that and all that kind of stuff. Well, when I said that, he's like, oh, well, no, we don't want to pay extra for it. Well, you and everybody else, buddy. And I know some guys, some ankle biter guys that see value in that. So they buy like the cheapest possible DJ truss that might fall on the drummer's head at some point in the night. And they'll throw that up with some $20 Amazon lights, and that's kind of what they have for a thing. And for some bands, that's enough to push them over the edge to make that guy their guy. It's not a pursuit that I've ever been motivated to be part of, because first of all, I think that light rig looks kind of dumb, because they're not putting, 12 pars up, they're putting like 5, and they're using little pin spots that are about that big and cost $30 on Amazon. Now, I'm not harping on you guys that are using cheap fixtures, because we're getting ready to have that whole conversation. I have a fixture right here in front of me that I'm going to bring on camera, and we're going to talk about that. There is a valid conversation to owning that level gear in the middle market. But if you're selling yourself as having a full light rig, in my world, that means everything is controlled. So there's a control package involved. You have no less than 8 or 12, upstage wash lights on a truss, no less than 6 movers upstage on a truss, 4 movers on the floor upstage to create opposing angles, you know, and that sort of thing, and no less than 8 downstage wash lights. That's a full light rig in my world. That light rig has a price tag attached to it. If you don't have that kind of budget, I'm not mad at you. But I'm not in this business to go out there and hang all that stuff and spend an extra hour and a half or 2 hours setting up and tearing down, you know, a light system on top of the audio systems. You know, I'm not mad at you if you don't want to hire me. You know, most of my clients, that's not an issue. You know, and the clients where that is an issue have a budget to make it possible, and they understand that. There's some guys that I'm really good friends with, specifically in the Baltimore area, who do nothing but lighting. And they do a phenomenal job at it. And some of them guys are using like really high level, you know, lighting fixtures and stuff like that. More higher level branded stuff than I would use if I was them, specifically for the kind of money that they're getting for the gigs. But they have day jobs, and this is kind of their hobby, and it's, you know, it is whatever it is, you know. And I'm not mad at them, man. You go do you. I love teaming up with those guys because then I don't have to load any lighting out of the trailer. I can just kind of let them do their thing, and I stay in my lane, they stay in theirs, and man, we put on a super psychedelic show, dude. I have no hate. I have no negative energy toward anybody who's doing that. If lighting is your thing, and that's what you do, and you're perfectly happy, you know, spending 2 hours loading your rig in and doing the things that you do and making the show look like Whitesnake, hey, man, you go at it, man. You do you, boo. I am not mad at you in any way, shape, or form because you're not taking any money out of my pocket. Because I can count on 2 or 3 fingers the bands that even think that this is a thing. They'd much rather have, you know, quality audio than they would a super psychedelic light show. Now, it may be different in your area. Don't come at me like trying to, you know, decapitate me because of my views on what it is in our market in the Mid-Atlantic with lighting. Because I'm not saying lighting isn't important. I'm saying there's not enough budget there to really justify a lot of the demand or the requests that some people have. When I am bidding even the bigger festival, especially if it's a day festival and it's going to happen during the day, it starts at like, you know, 11 in the morning and it's done by 4 or 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the evening. In the summertime, it doesn't get dark in our area until about 8:30, 9 o'clock during the summer. So if clients are really budget conscious, the first thing I'll suggest is, you know, get rid of the lighting. You know, I can knock anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 off of your bid on a big, you know, 2 or 3 day festival if we don't do lighting. It's not that I don't want to do lighting. I love the way my light rig looks when it's all set up. It's just about dollars and cents, man, you know. And 9 times out of 10, they're 100% cool with taking the discount and not doing lighting. And no one ever walks away from the show like, wow, man, I really wish there was some lights up there blinking around at 1 o'clock in the afternoon just so it looked like something was flashing in the roof of the stage. I seen a guy do that just a couple weeks ago on a gig. It's a day event. And I'm like, I would have sold them on not doing any lighting. It really didn't add that much of a vibe to the stage. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you can haze it up, and even if you're doing a show that goes into dusk and early dark, maybe you're only in the dark for 45 minutes or something, okay, then, you know, there may be a conversation about lighting being valid for that event. And we can make it look great. If you got the money, I got the time, dude. That's what it's always about in this market, you know? So, you know, I said all that to say that it's not a super huge priority in my world. You know, it just isn't. Not that I don't want it to be, not that I don't enjoy doing super psychedelic shows, but it's just got to make financial sense because I have no desire, number one, to be the cheapest guy in town that provides all the buzzers and whistles that every band could ever dream of. Like their super psychedelic rock show fantasies come true every time this guy shows up on the, you know, on the scene and he works for $250 a night. If you're doing that, I mean, hey, man, more power to you, but I can look into my little pro audio crystal ball and tell you that you're not going to last long, okay? because this business will chew you up and spit you out. And bands will never stop requesting more and more stuff because they don't have to pay for it. I mean, just look at the ridiculous stuff we bump into on some of these riders, for the B Nationals and stuff. They want to use, $200,000 consoles to mix a show that's going to have 800 or 1,000 people at it. Like, come on, dude. And we always end up having to talk them off the ledge and say, look, this is what we're going to provide. If you want to do the show, great. If you don't, that's fine too. We'll find somebody else that does. 99.9% of the time, they come back and say, oh, no, the rider's just a wish list, blah, blah, blah. They want to make the money, especially if they're making, 15, 20, 25 grand on the gig and they're only playing one 90-minute set. Trust me, they're going to adjust their expectations. But on a local level, if you're allowing the bands and your clients to constantly hound you for equipment and things that they want, their little wish list items, but then they don't want to support that financially, then I would suggest you to work with other bands. Let that band go out and start buying the gear and let them do their own super psychedelic show and let them see how much it costs to buy it, set it up, tear it down, transport it, insure it. Because God only knows, we've seen a lot of guys, especially in the last couple of years, get their trailers stolen and stuff like that. Insure it and then maintain it. There was a band that I worked for probably 8 years ago who did just exactly that. They got on Amazon and they bought all the cheapest lights that they could buy, and I knew what they were doing, and it was totally cool. I was working in a room that had provided lights and audio, professional lights and audio. They didn't want that. They wanted to use their own lights. I'm okay with that. And if no skin off my back, bring your light rig in, As long as it's not in the way of my stuff and it doesn't harm or destroy any of my gear in the process, I'm totally okay with it. And they did that for about a year. And then next thing you know, it's all up on Facebook Marketplace. Because it's a lot of work, dude. Remember that when these guys are giving you a hard time about, well, so-and-so down the street provides a truss light rig and, 6 little pin spot movers and all that. How come you don't do that? Well, because number one, usually my audio stuff is 1,000 times better than that guy. Second of all, I know my value and I know what it takes to do a good light show, and you're really not ready to pay that kind of money. I'm okay, keep hiring that guy, because that guy will last about a year or 3, and then his stuff will be on Facebook Marketplace like everybody else. So, I digress. Let's get into the technical parts of this. I just felt like I needed to lay that foundation before we start talking about buying fixtures and how we're going to, do things. This fixture right here is a no-name brand eBay 180 watt LED 4-in-1 fixture. Now let me explain all those things to you. Let me explain some things to you when you're looking at lower end lighting that you should really want to get. First of all, make sure you're getting PowerCon stuff in and out. Because usually if it has that, it's in the upper echelons of cheaper Chinese made, Asian made, fixtures. It's a metal case. This is an aluminum metal case. It's not plastic. That is an absolute must for what I do. This specific fixture is 8 channels. I started to move toward the Sheds brand lights, which they're Chinese too. Basically the same fixture. They've just marketed things a whole lot better. They've come up with the name Sheds, they've branded themselves, and they have a whole bunch of that Asian inventory in warehouses here in the continental United States. Don't fool yourself in thinking that that is an American company. There's probably some American investors that are representing the company here in the US. Maybe there's not, because I have just yesterday was hearing how a lot of Chinese companies are coming here, buying real estate and setting up shop here so that they can say that they're an American company, when really the only thing American about them is their zip code. Their products are still Asian, still Chinese. But let me also say, so is like 99% of the rest of the lighting world. Long gone are the days of, US made, and there may be some boutique lighting people out there, don't get me wrong, but in the masses of the lighting world, there's not a whole lot of US manufacturers out there. Or long gone are the days of the little mad scientist LD1 guy who's in his garage and has decided that he's going to build the greatest lighting, equipment the world has ever seen. No, that kind of died, in about the mid to late 90s, early 2000s, something like that, when we had the absolute inundated invasion of Asian electronics into the US market. Those early days were tough, man. Some of that early Chinese fixtures and things, they didn't last long, But the Chinese have also figured out that if they want to continue to be validated in the US market, they're going to have to start building some better products. And what separates a Chinese-owned company from, say, an American or European-owned company that's getting stuff manufactured in China is quality control. The companies that are from America or Western Europe, that sort of thing, that are having things manufactured in China, have their people boots on the ground at the factories, keeping quality control in its proper place. And that's why those products may say made in China, but they are of a quality that we are used to in the US or in Western Europe. Not always, but the companies that care, some of the bigger pro level lighting companies, that's exactly what they're doing, Now, this fixture could have easily just come out of the same factory as a Chauvet fixture or as an American DJ fixture or as an Elation fixture or any number of other, big name recognizable brand lighting stuff. We don't know. That's always been a selling point for guys that were moving this kind of gear inside the US. Hey, it's the same thing. It's made in the same factory. It just doesn't have their brand name on it, blah, 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 all that. I don't really give any of that any kind of validation. And you guys know that have been following me, for years, that I am not a super huge fan of how China has stolen our intellectual property and all that kind of stuff, especially in the audio world. But if there's one thing we can get away with, with having to deal with the outrageous economic inflation and issues that we have dealt with in the last 5 years, is lighting. I think lighting is a place where you can cut corners. I think it's a place where this is a generic, no-name brand. It's got 18 LEDs. Each one is 10 watts. So combined, you get about a 180 watt fixture. I have not had this very fixture right here is probably, 5 years old. It's got 5 seasons on it. And I just replaced them, and I probably lost 3 fixtures in 5 years. Just wash light fixtures. Wash light is where I really think you can kind of bend the rules. You know what I'm saying? It's a light, dude. It comes on, it goes off. It creates this color, it creates that color. This specific light is red, green, blue, and amber or white. Red, green, blue, white. You can get an amber out of it if you blend some colors, but it's not technically an amber fixture. That's a 4-in-1 fixture. Red, green, blue, white. 4 colors in one fixture, 4-in-1. They have 5-in-1, which adds amber, and they have 6-in-1, which adds ultraviolet. So you can do like a black light kind of thing, I typically just buy the 4-in-1s because they do everything I need them to do. And that is kind of where it is. When I started buying the shed lights, they were 10 channel. So I had to reprogram my Show Express stuff because it was set up for these fixtures that are all 8 channel. So I did change the downstage wash lights to the shed lights. But then after that, I was like, you know what? I'm not rebuilding my whole light show for 10 channel fixtures. So I replaced these with new. I figured 5 years, it's time to, hand these down to other systems here in the shop and the B and C rig and that sort of stuff. And I did replace them with some fixtures I got off of Amazon. These, by the way, were $80 a piece on eBay. I think I was buying them in lots of 4 or 8. I haven't had any issues with them whatsoever. Like I said, I lost 2 or 3 over the last 5 years, which is kind of normal considering they sort of take a beating, They worked fine with the Show Express software. You just have to pick, when you go into the profiles, you have to pick a Chauvet fixture that's an 8-channel similar fixture to this. The Amazon fixtures I got were, I think, $60 a piece. Same aluminum body, same specs as this, and it was 8-channel, and I was able to get up new upstage wash lights without having to really break the bank. Now, if I was going to buy, Chauvet, level fixtures, even DJ level fixtures for that, I would probably be paying about $125 a fixture. That's about the neighborhood that it is. It may be a little more, maybe a little less, depending on where you get it, that sort of thing. Depending on what quality you get. If you go Pro Series, well, then you're talking like over $200 a fixture or something like that. I don't think any of us in the middle market really have that kind of money laying around to be able to do what we do, and have clients that can support doing, shows with $200 per fixture light rigs. Now, I know some hobby guys who have, they work for the government or they're business owners and they got a bunch of expendable income and they buy all pro level stuff and then go out and work for $300 or $400 a night. But they're not in it for the money. They're in it. It's their hobby. It's what they like to do. They do up their house for, Halloween and Christmas and stuff like that every year with all the crazy stuff you see in, Facebook Reels and that sort of thing. And they'll program lights to music and around their house and that sort of stuff. So those are different guys. Those aren't the guys that are really in the trenches and really trying to, really give the client what they can give them the most bang for their buck without going broke or going out of business. Because, and I've said this many times in my content before, if you kind of adopt this keep up with the Joneses attitude, and you're always chasing the flavor of the week gear, the flavor of the week light fixtures, all that kind of stuff, you're going to end up just going broke because you just can't do that. You got to get decent stuff in place, and then you just got to let it ride, man. You got to make some money with that stuff. ROI, return on investment. You need to make that rig make you money back. The slowest ROI that I have in all of my systems, and I have 2 full light rigs and then a bunch of little tree systems floating around as well. Lighting is the slowest return on investment because there's just not that huge of a demand for it in the middle market per se. Again, I take the full light rig out. I think last summer I only had the movers out like maybe once or twice, because a lot of the events that we're doing are day events. And it's ending at dusk, so we need some lighting. We just put wash lighting up. We don't hang the movers. Even with having the full wash rig up, we probably only did it 5 or 6 times. We didn't have any truss gigs this past year. And then all of our club stuff is either the club has in-house lighting or we're just bringing a couple downstage trees and putting some color on stage and bam, there it is. That's just the world that we live in here in this area. It's just the world that I live in. If you want more, I'll give you more. Now, moving on to movers, I see a lot of nightclubs using Chinese movers and having some pretty good success with them. That's no-name, unbranded movers you can buy on eBay or Amazon or something like that. Or it may be like, there was a brand I seen, like High Topper was a brand that I seen. King is another brand that I see doing that sort of thing. Sheds, I think, is probably doing it a little better than some of the others because I think there's a little more quality control in place. If I was going to buy no-name Chinese brand movers, I'd probably buy Sheds. That's probably what I would go with. But in my world, movers is something that I take very seriously because they're expensive and I really want them to look good. I think movers need to be of some quality so that they really, really get the point across when you're doing what you're doing. So for my money, I buy Chauvet Intimidator Spot LED. I have 6 360s and 4 355s. So we have 10 movers. Works great. We got cases for everything. Those fixtures I think are about $1,000 a piece right now. I try to find them used You know, I mean, if they didn't come out of a nightclub and like a DJ had them or something like that, you know, I really try to get a feel for what kind of mileage they have on them. And I also tear mine apart and clean out all the fans in them and stuff, because I've had a couple of them. I use the DJ level movers from Chauvet. I've had some of the LED boards overheat and burn up in them. When I was at Champion Billiards, I think I had one go down there, and then I've had one go down with this rig that I've had now for 5 years, which isn't great. I keep the boxes when I buy them. I store the boxes. That way you get something to ship them in. And I just shipped it back to Chauvet in Florida. They repaired it. They sent it back to me. They treated me really good. Their service is impeccable. I'm not anti-name brand lighting. I'm not. The problem is I just can't afford it, you know, and I don't have clients that are supporting that level of lighting, at least at this stage of the game. Maybe later down the road, you know, or something like that. But I bought the 360s brand new from Sweetwater with cases. You usually see them in the background. They're right there behind those chairs is a stack of them. You usually have them behind me, but I'm on the other side of the shop this week because I got a bunch of gear on the other side that's taking up my life, driving me freaking nuts. I'm running out of space. I need a bigger shop. Yeah, so when I decided to do movers, I'm like, I want to do movers right. I want to get name brand stuff. So I got the 6 360s with cases. It was probably in the neighborhood, 5 years ago, it was probably in the neighborhood of $3,500 or something is what I paid for that. And then I bought 4 355s with cases used from a friend of mine in the business. And I think I paid another, I don't know, $2,500 for those or something, or $2,000. I forget. It's been 4 years ago, 5 years ago or whatever. But yeah, so I mean, you know, I try to use quality movers because I just want to get a lot of mileage out of them. And I just think they're brighter. I think they look better. They play better with the Show Express software. Now, there's guys that will argue that they're using generic no-name brand or sheds, you know, level movers, and they're not having any issues at all. I got one good buddy of mine that uses all sheds movers, and he's had them for several years and haven't had one failure. He's really had a lot of luck with them. So I'm not saying don't do that. And moving forward, I was actually looking last year at buying some moving wash lights. And instead of putting up 12 upstage, you know, lights like this, you know, I was going to put up, I don't know, 6 moving wash lights. And I was looking at buying the sheds light. The shed has a really cool moving wash light, you know. And then they have that BI thing or whatever that focuses in and out and does, you know, weird stuff. I think that's a super cool fixture as well. So if you're in the market, you know, for movers, my first suggestion is buy DJ level Chauvet movers, because that's what they're a company I support and I like. But if you just don't have the money for that and you want to save a few dollars, any of the Chinese stuff, it's a gamble. You know, that's the thing. You got to buy it for a price where you can buy extras, first of all, in case one goes down, you got an extra. And then second of all, to kind of offset the risk that you're taking, you know. But most of them are priced with those things in mind. You know, the Chinese aren't stupid, you know, so that is what it is. So that's kind of what my whole lighting world looks like in CLP audio and staging world. That's why it's not called CLP audio and lighting and staging, or CLP audio lighting and staging, because we do lighting as the client requests, you know, but we just have so many clients that are trying to crunch numbers and trying to pinch budgets that it is what it is. You know, and I think a lot of you guys can identify with that. And I think a lot of you guys deal with the same obstacles. You know, you just do. You know, you deal with the fact that you'd love to do more. I'd love to go buy a, you know, $150,000 line array tomorrow. But I don't really have the clients to support that. You know? Now, I understand that you have to have the gear before you get the clients. I get that. But at some point, you got to make enough money to even be able to borrow the money to buy the gear. And if you're not really being a good businessman or woman that way, or you're just not making the money to justify it, here are the alternatives. Now, let me conclude with this. I have a friend who is a phenomenal sound guy, and got great quality audio equipment. And he's kind of like every other sound guy, myself included. We're not exactly falling over ourselves to do lighting. It's not something that I enjoy, It's something that I can do, but it's so labor intensive programming a light show and all that kind of stuff. And there's just not a lot of money there. So I'm not super motivated to do it. And neither is he, So when he got into the lighting game, he just got on Amazon and he just bought a truckload of $20 wash lights that are, I don't know, 100 watts a piece or something, LED, plastic fixtures. They had IC inputs instead of PowerCon, and he just started wiring up his rig that way. Bought a whole bunch of movers for 30 to 50 bucks a piece, all generic, no name stuff. Every bit of it was Amazon, and he was running it all with it might have been the American DJ laptop app. I'm pretty sure it was. And I went and visited him at a local outdoor gig that he does in the summertime, and was kind of like, he's got a bunch of it up there now. Now, he had probably 18 or 20 upstage wash lights and 12 or 16 downstage lights. There must have been 12 or 16 movers moving around, and he had it hazed up really good. It didn't look hateful, didn't look bad. And the guy probably had, $2,000 in the whole thing. He already had the truss and stuff like that and everything. I can't be mad at the guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, no one's walking away from that show saying that the light rig didn't look good. Now, the wash lights didn't light the stage, I thought, efficiently enough. I mean, it did okay. The pictures still turned out really well. When the pictures that he posts online on Facebook and stuff look amazing, And then he's just kind of the opinion when a light fixture stops working, he just throws it away and unpacks another one. So there's something to be said for that. He has been doing that now for years, probably close to 10 years. And no one has ever complained that his shows don't look good. I don't know what to say about that, If it ain't broke, don't fix it. It just kind of is what it is, you know what I mean? You do you. Lighting is a loaded conversation. Light guys will argue with you until you're blue in the face that you need to do this, that, and the other. You need to only buy name brand, fixtures and the whole thing, all the things. But rarely are they the guy who is paying for all that. That's kind of what separates the men from the boys in this business. It's one thing to be an LD1 and say, hey, I need X, Y, and Z. It's another thing to be an LD1 who's providing all that lighting. Because it's very expensive. It's expensive to set up, to transport, to maintain, to buy, all the things. So yeah. So if you hung around this long in the video and you made it this far, you should really think about being a Grumpy Sound Guy Insider and becoming a member of this channel. Members get all kinds of cool content that is only geared toward members. Member videos are very, very rarely ever released to the public. They are member videos, and I pull out all the monetization commercials and stuff on the member side, so you don't have to sit through any of the mid-roll commercials that YouTube throws into this. And you just kind of get to be an insider. Plus, you get to be part of a community of guys. It's not just about me and my content. It's about being part of a community of like-minded sound engineers and production people who are constantly trading notes with each other. And you're kind of filtering out all the idiots for the most part. You're kind of in a group of, we've been really, really blessed with this on YouTube and on Facebook, that the guys that are in those groups and are in the comments section have been really good guys. They know how to communicate in an intelligent way. and they bring a lot of wisdom and a lot of years of experience and stuff to the table. And man, it's just a really cool vibe inside the member side of the YouTube channel. Think about it. It costs, I think, about as much as a cup of coffee at Starbucks per month. In fact, I was looking at it the other day and was like, those prices are probably a little low. But you know what? I got them low for a reason, because I want everyone to be able to enjoy that content and be part of that insider thing. Also, if you're a subscriber, a member of this channel, and you kind of get yourself in a bind and you need a little bit of help or something like that, then I tend to answer phone calls and answer emails and private messages to those guys, where I don't usually do that for people I don't know. Because my time is so valuable, I need to be focusing my time toward paying clients. Over on Facebook, I'm offering videograms now. So for, I think it's $9.99, you can request a videogram from my Facebook profile and ask me anything, you know, and I'll give you a 5-minute video helping you troubleshoot your issues, or telling you what gear to buy, or telling you my thoughts on gear you're looking to buy. If you just want a grumpy sound guy rant for a friend of yours that has a birthday coming up or something like that, the videograms is where that's happening. I have really pulled back and just are not answering the volume of private messages, weird phone calls and emails that I get from people I don't know. If you're not a paying customer, if you're not a subscriber, or it's not a videogram request, I'm probably not answering the phone, and I'm probably not getting to you, mainly because I'm just getting overwhelmed with all that, and there's just not enough of me to go around for everyone who just wants to take a bite and run away. You know, I'm really dedicating that wisdom, that knowledge, and my experience to the people who support me. Because if you support me, I want to support you. And that's how our community works. I love you guys. I'll see you next week.